Capture cards have come a whole hell of a long way. However, on the current generation consoles, they're always lacking one feature, whether it's full HDMI 2.1 support so you can enjoy 120 Hz 4K gaming, whether it's zero HDR support or claimed HDR support that isn't really there. And every capture card until the one I'm testing here today was missing out on VRR or variable refresh rate, damn near a staple on these current generation consoles. However, there's still games like Lies of P that have issues with VRR and you have to turn it off. I just made a little short form video the other day about that. The capture card I'm testing and reviewing here today is the latest and greatest from Avermedia, their flagship, if you will, a $300 capture card that will be available for purchase October 12th. So I've had my hands on this nitty-gritty unit for the last few weeks, testing it out on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Switch. That's it. I was trying to think if I used anything else. To get the bluff or bottom line up front out of the way before I even run the intro, this is a hell of a capture card, even at that $300 price point, although it's missing one feature that this would be a much stronger recommendation for me if it had. A feature that the competition's flagship model has, and I was almost shocked that this model doesn't have it, considering it is loaded to the gills with everything else that I could potentially want from a capture card. A quick disclaimer for my audience, the Stallions and Stallionettes, this capture card was sent for review, but this is going to be an honest, comprehensive review. I haven't been paid or told to say anything about it, so if there's any cons, shortcomings, or areas of improvement, you're going to hear about it, so these companies make better products over time. And another little mention, or at least a thank you to Avermedia for sending this unit out before public launch so I can get my hands on it and give my feedback. As for the packaging and included accessories on Avermedia's latest and greatest capture card, so new it's not even out yet, and so flagshipy and so feature-rich that it's $300 US. As with all Avermedia products, the theme color is going to be white and red. You're going to see that in a week or two when I review their USB microphone. Notable key features of this capture card, what makes it $300 US and makes it a good deal at that price point, isn't that it's perfect for consoles, because almost all capture cards are going to work with consoles. RGB lighting, yeah, it looks cool, but it ain't going to boost FPS on your rig and inches on your ego. But right here, the numbers, Mason, what do they mean? That you're running a hell of a capture card here. You're getting full 4K 144 Hz pass-through, meaning that you're seeing the exact native image, the best possible image that you would possibly see even if you weren't using a capture card, which is wonderful because I've used dozens of capture cards over the last decade or so, and they've always had some kind of limitation with the pass-through, whether it's that it doesn't have HDR, that sweet high dynamic range, VRR, variable refresh rate, big one right there, especially with the new gen consoles, and then you get this delectable number, which is your capture resolution and frame rate, 4K 60. Love to see that as well. One feature this capture card desperately needs is the ability to capture directly to the capture card via micro SD card, like Elgato's external 4K capture card I've reviewed previously, which if I do recall is $100 more expensive than this unit. They're both freakishly expensive capture cards. And we've got some tech specs back here with the ports, plugs, connectors, doodads, niblets, giblets, and a itty bitty tiny picture. You will have a total of 4 clear wafer stickers that will need sliced. You will be able to get this outer box out of the way, and you will be greeted with your capture card front dead center and a nice little diagram up top telling you all the ports, plugs, connectors, showing you how to hook this son of a bee up. Also, there's a QR code down there. You can have your way with it if you'd like. Now, your $300 capture card is held in place with a little basic cardboard, no laser cut foam or anything, but you do have some cutouts to easily get the unit out. It's surprising. It's not necessarily what I expected immediately. I will say cosmetically, I think it looks really good with this gunmetal gray or this dark charcoal, if you will. Then you have this small panel, which will have RGB lighting, which you can disable. Praise the Lord. 2 very tiny rubber feet. We'll see if that actually does anything. Yeah, it does. This is really light, so it's still going to slide around a skosh. And of course, you're going to have your ports in the back. Those are HDMI 2.1 Johns, and then 2 3.5mm jacks. This doesn't feel cheap. It just feels incredibly light, which I didn't really expect. I thought this would have more heft to it, and it is just, maybe it's because I'm freakishly strong or something, but I don't believe that's the case at all. I think it's because this feels super not cheap. I almost said cheap. Golly jeepers. It feels just very light. Kind of like a toy. As for the included accessories, you are going to have a very short HDMI 2.1 cable. However, it does have dust covers on both ends. I do mean very short. You're probably going to want to use your own if you're running this down a desk through a cableway or something like that. But this is a high quality joint, as it is a HDMI 2.1, as noted by this 8K. Although don't always trust that little placard, because there's some Amazon generic nameless joints that have that as well. Also a very high quality 4-pole 3.5mm jumper cable. And this is a USB 3.2 Gen 2 USB C to C, just let it be and don't bang bring your knee cable. The last few words mean nothing, but the first few are the actual specs of this bad boy. This is a solid cable. And make sure you don't bring your own USB-C cable to the party. Use the included one, or make sure your cable is 3.2 Gen 2. Same thing with the HDMI cable. If you're going to bring your own to the party, that's cool and all, you know, dance with the one you came with, but make sure she's 2.1 or else leave her at home because there's a hotter 2.1 right here for you. Now, the latest and greatest capture card from Avermedia is currently sold out as indicated by this big red placard here. However, this somewhat not sexy landing page I think is just a pre-order page. However, eventually it will come to this little bit more sensual and easy to navigate looking landing page. Yeah, this is a pretty website. Whoever built this deserves a raise. This is nice. But the main reason I'm showing you this page is this little tab over here for downloads. It's going to take you to the software application, Assist Central. I do recommend installing this, but there's something else you're going to need as well. And that is a direct link that I received from the representative that sent this capture card to me. You might not actually need this link by the time this review goes public and this card is actually purchasable for the public. But for my old scrappy early reviewing ass, I was having some issues to where I installed the software program, but it wasn't recognizing the capture card. This isn't a huge deal because you can still use the capture card fully, all of its features, except for controlling the RGB, which is very, very bright, and it's going to be on unless you can get the software running to turn it off. So I will have linked in the description below a link that I received from the representative, which is a driver uninstall and install tool from Avermedia. And that got me up and running with the Avermedia gaming utility, which I could install and it would show me the capture card up here, but I wouldn't have any of this control at all. I couldn't do anything with the capture card. Now, these are all grayed out and you simply can't do anything with them. That's fine. All I wanted the application for is this right here, the RGB control. I have it turned off and there's a reason for that. I'd like to have it on at one static color, but if you scroll down, the slider for brightness is grayed out. You cannot do anything with it. But if you select other modes, for example, breathing, where it's fading in and out of a color, then it unlocks this bar. And I selected the lowest possible brightness, which you only have 5 steps here, and then switch back over to static. And this is still grayed out. I can't do anything for it. And it is freakishly bright, brighter than any of the RGB devices I have glowing in my room. So I'm going to be disabling it until a future patch or update fixes that to where there's better slider control of that brightness. It's too damn bright. I feel like I got flashbanged. Over here in the cog icon for settings, you are going to have your updates for the software as well as the actual capture card, which are both currently up to date. As for the warranty, you have 2 years of standardized coverage, but if you want to extend that by 1 year, you can register it online, and it doesn't appear as if you have to do some janky stuff like a social media post flexing about how awesome the capture card is or anything like that. They're not trying to get free marketing out of you. It's just registering your product saying, hey, I bought it from here legally and here's the serial number on it, you know, registering your product, and that'll extend the warranty from 2 years to 3 years. So 1 year of coverage per $100 of product here. I just figured that out right now. $300 product, 3 years of warranty. You know, I wish the pro controller world would hop on board with that because some of these $350 pro controllers have like a 6-month warranty, which is fucking insane. Yes, I know about the consumer law where there's 1 year of coverage in North America, but we've talked about that on the channel in the past. Who's going to small claims court with these companies? Drop in the comments section below if you're a litigation leopard and you're down there clawing out the eyes of these unfair companies that are trying to diddle us from the side. The physical setup is very simple and identical to pretty much every capture card. You're gonna have your USB-C cable connected to your PC. You're gonna have your console that you're capturing from. In this case, it is that PlayStation 5 over there, which runs all the way down through a cableway. And then your HDMI out is gonna go to your monitor where you're viewing your game. And if you want to have separate audio tracks, which you can actually see in OBS, you can use those 3.5mm ports. In order to get any capture card on the market currently working on the PlayStation 5, you do need to disable one setting in the PS5, which is HDCP. In settings, scroll down to system, then down to HDMI, and you're going to see HDCP, a little warning saying if you turn this off, some games and apps can't be used. I haven't really encountered any applications that won't launch with this turned off, but I know they do exist. I heard Netflix back in the day didn't work, but you're going to need to disable this. In order to get capturing footage in OBS, I'm assuming you're using Open Broadcaster software as it is the shit. If you're using Streamlabs, probably transition over to OBS. Not only because Slobs has terrible business practices and just this sleazy scumball company, but also it's just a fatter, bloated version of OBS. This is coming from somebody that started on Slobs and then made the jump, the plunge into the deep end without the floaties into OBS. Anyway, let's get into it here. The cleanest way to do this is to set up a separate scene. So I have PlayStation 5 over here. Click on the plus icon to add a new source. And this is going to be a video capture device. Now I already have it over here as the Avermedia capture card, but prior to this existing, I typed in the name and hit OK. Then you're going to have this pop up. And don't you worry about the fact there's no signal. That's because my PS5 is sleeping right now. She deserves a little rest here and there. Now the device might have something else selected. Go ahead and grab this drop down and select Live Gamer Ultra 2.1. And if this is completely blank, sometimes deactivating it and reactivating it will wake it up. If your video image looks a little off, maybe the color grading looks funky, like there's a hue on it or something, click on Configure Video over here and click on Default and OK, and that will snap everything back to a non-janky time. Now by default, this is going to be selected as device default, and your image is not going to look that sexy. It's like 720p or 1080p, sure as hell not that 4K 144 hertz HDR VRR balls to the wall capture that you're looking for. So go ahead and select custom, and then if you try and type in this value, the actual resolution of 4K, nothing's going to happen. You need to select it in this drop down over here. And as for FPS, you can just leave it to match output FPS, but why leave it up to interpretation when you can select 60 frames per second? This is forged in fire here. This is the way. Just follow my settings, what you see on screen here, and you'll be good to go. Now, in order to capture audio from your capture card, we need to do a little something something. You might be tempted to select on one of these output options over here, but don't do that because there's a nasty input lag or delay, about 2 seconds, and you can correct this later. However, it's just extra steps and you don't need to do any of this. Just click capture audio only. Now, this box, you might be tempted to click it if you have a Go XLR or some kind of a mixer. I've got one myself. You don't need to do this either. Just leave this on capture audio only. Click OK. Now, you're going to see your capture card over here. This is going to be the actual volume of your gameplay coming out of your PS5. This is going to be your voice over here coming out of your microphone. So if you want to balance and blend, make sure everything sounds good. Awesome. Click on these 3 dibbly dots and come down to advanced audio properties. And by default, monitor off is going to be selected. If you only want to hear your sound, but you do not want to output it, so you don't want to capture your game sound, which I don't know why you'd want to, unless you want silent gameplay clips or something, but go ahead and select monitor and output. That's going to make it to where you're monitoring, you're hearing the sound yourself, but you're also outputting, capturing that audio for your viewers as well. Everyone deserves the same stimulation. But now I don't really want to see this bar anymore. It ain't really doing anything for me, so go ahead and right click it and hit hide. Oh god, now I do want to see it. Go ahead and right click and hit unhide all, and you'll see your stuff over here. The $1 million or my millionth subscriber question is going to be, what does the gameplay footage look like? It's a capture card, so that's the most important thing here. If you haven't played Astro's Playroom, you're doing yourself a great disservice. It's pre-installed on the PS5 for a reason. It's pretty adorable, pretty cute, pretty goddamn fun too. Pretty short as well. You can beat it in like a sitting if you don't have to use the potty or anything. As far as the cons, shortcomings, or limitations of this capture card, there really isn't a whole hell of a lot. It doesn't have that somewhat expected feature at that price point of being able to slip in a micro SD card and capture directly onto the capture card. I understand that requires onboard encoding and a whole other suite of other trickery that needs to be built on board the capture card, and perhaps that's why the Elgato 4K 60S Plus, I might have mixed that name up, but the 4K capture card I reviewed on the channel previously is about $100 more expensive than this unit, basically the price of a digital-only PS5. That $100 more expensive Elgato capture card has less impressive pass-through and capture specs. It doesn't have VRR, and it's also bigger, bulkier, and heavier. But my golly jeepers, this would have been an ultimate buy for me, just an absolute recommendation if it had that standalone capture on board capability. But having said that, even if you're using this to capture stationary on one console or a couple of consoles, the fact that you have VRR, variable refresh rate, plus all the HDMI 2.1 niceties, 4K 120, or actually in this case 4K 144 hertz, so even higher than the 120 FPS that we're seeing on the Xbox Series and PS5, this capture card isn't really limiting you at any time. From the image you're seeing, you're still getting HDR and that full speed and full resolution and VRR, and what you're capturing is a pretty damn good 4K 60 image. Now, I will say there was a little bit of setup, a little bit of tweakage that needed done in OBS because the out-of-the-box performance was not that great. I threw in some clips showing how choppy and stuttery it was. It looked like maybe 720p or 1080p, but once you manually dial in 4K 60, it does look legit. Another huge gripe or con I have is that the software, keep in mind, I do have an early release taste over here. You're going to have a much more polished presentation in full production, but not being able to dim the RGB sucks. I'm glad I was able to turn it off because at first I couldn't even do that, but having a lot more control of that lighting, being able to dim it would be fantastic. We know the cons, we know the pros, we know what the box looks like, we know what's inside the box, we know how to set it up, we know how to hook it up in OBS, and most importantly, we know what the gameplay footage looks like. Pretty damn good. What we don't know is what I saw through my eyes, my ocular cavity, so I'm going to fill in the gaps right now. It looked like I was playing on my PS5 normally without a capture card hooked up, which is awesome because every time you're using a capture card, it doesn't look like that. There's some kind of limitations, even the highest in capture cards usually. Even if the limitation is as small as not having VRR, it makes a difference. This capture card is phenomenal. I just wish you could insert a micro SD card and capture directly on board with a little bit of encoding magic. Maybe the next version or iteration will have that, because I feel like if you're already in the territory of a $300 capture card, another $80 to $100 to have onboard encoding and a micro SD card slot. This isn't the $100 entry level model where you're competing with the Elgato 60 Plus, which can be had for $80 on Amazon. This is Beastly. It is linked in the description below. I'll see you Stallions tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, as well as honest gaming product reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, mics, chairs, etc. There are some hefty exclusive discount codes found only in the description of my videos and only for the audience here at GamerHeaven. I have links to all my other platforms and socials in the description below. To get in touch with myself and the Stallions and Stallionettes of GamerHeaven, join the community Discord, and check me out at twitch.tv where I go live every other leap year on a blue moon if it falls into an odd calendar number, and my pH balance is on point. Just kidding, starting June I'm going to be live streaming a lot. Thanks for watching. This has been AK40 Kevin hosting GamerHeaven, and I'll see you tomorrow because I upload daily, all the time, 60% of the time, sometimes, most of the time. Peace.